so in love with you.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, after years and years of double-digit equity growth, it has clearly put us into a housing market bubble. But what's important to understand is not all cities are the same. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the nation as a whole just to see where the bubbles are and where the bubbles are not. So especially if you're able to live from home and kind of choose where you get to live next, you may want to pay attention to this video and avoid all of the places that have the biggest housing market bubble, because more than likely, those are going to be the areas with the highest correction or housing market crash. So today what we're going to do is we're going to deep dive into an article by fortune.com titled "Another Housing Bubble? We're Skating Close to One," says realtor.com economist. Now, as always, guys, just understand that this is my personal YouTube channel. I am not a financial advisor, okay? But I am a realtor in Houston and a loan officer in Texas. And I have a couple decades of experience in real estate matters of various kinds. Plus, I've learned the hard way in 2008, and I will never forget that. And if you guys could, please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, comment. And if you guys can, if you guys ever find a really interesting article about the housing market, please email that to me. I've had a few subscribers actually email me articles that I've made videos on. So please keep those articles coming, and please continue to comment, because you guys bring up some really good points that I never even considered. So I really love you guys. Thank you for following this journey with me. Let's get started on this article right now. Now, we're going to start this article with this little snippet, and it says, "This might be the hottest housing market ever recorded. Over the past 12 months, U.S. home prices are up a staggering 19.2%. For comparison, in the years leading into the 2008 housing bust, the biggest 12-month jump was 14.5%. Now, it's important to understand that when I'm saying housing market bubble, what I am saying is excessive, aggressive equity growth, right? I'm not talking about supply. I'm not talking about demand or lending restrictions or how we got here. I'm simply defining a bubble. So a bubble, again, is excessive equity growth that is fundamentally flawed and breaks fundamentals of the housing market, which is what we're in right now, right? Excessive equity growth. So then the question is will it just cool off? Will it deflate? Will it pop? Whatever the question is, housing market bubble, excessive equity growth. And what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to comment below and tell me if you think the housing market bubble that we are in right now is worse than 2008. Do me a favor, comment below. I'm not asking why we're here, bad financing, supply and demand. I am simply saying, do you guys think we are in a worse housing market bubble than 2008? Comment below. Let's continue on with the article. It goes on. There's a growing chorus of economists speculating that if home price growth doesn't abate soon, the housing market could eventually overheat, or worse, we can wind up in another full-fledged housing bubble. Now, you guys, I don't know who these economists are that are speculating, but I would like to tell them, hurry up. We need you. We're clearly in a bubble. Please help me sound the alarm. Let's continue with the article. Back in March, researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas sent a shockwave through the industry after releasing a paper titled "Real-Time Market Monitoring Finds Signs of a Brewing U.S. Housing Bubble." I mean, it's logical, guys, right? I mean, a fifth grader could see this as long as they were unbiased and unemotional, right? Comment below. Do you think a fifth grader could have seen this coming? Let's continue. The Dallas Fed researchers were blunt in their assessment. U.S. house prices are again becoming unhinged from fundamentals. But even if we're in a housing bubble, the Dallas Fed researchers don't think it would be a 2008 repeat. For starters, homeowners are in much better shape now than they were heading into the 2008 meltdown. At the height of the 2000 housing bubble, U.S. households were spending 7.2% of disposable personal income on mortgage debt payments. As the fourth quarter of 2021, the figure is just 3.8%, probably because of the lower interest rates. In addition, subprime mortgages are less of a worry these days given the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act. There is no expectation that fallout from a housing correction would be comparable to the 2007 and 2009 global financial crisis in terms of magnitude or macroeconomic gravity. Among other things, household balance sheets appear to be better shape, and excessive borrowing doesn't appear to be fueling the housing market boom. Now, you guys, I actually think that this housing market bubble can be worse than the 2008 bubble, because here's one of the big difference, okay? Taking out of supply and demand and taking out the lending restrictions, in this market, we are in much, much worse shape when it comes to inflation. Inflation is historically high, which means it costs way more money to just live right now than it did back in 2008. Plus, in 2008, the rates weren't as low as they are right now. So the Federal Reserve could actually lower interest rate to fix the problem. Right now, we can't lower interest rates because we're in overwhelming inflation. So the Federal Reserve's ability to kind of navigate us through this housing market problem and have a soft landing is nil. They don't have the resources or ability to help us by lowering interest rates and printing more money, because they already did that for COVID. So they can't do it anymore, because now historical high inflation. And it is because that historical high inflation that I believe it is possible that this housing market bubble is actually worse than 2008, regardless of lending and underwriting restrictions and guidelines from the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act of 2010, making qualified mortgages. Now, what I want to do now is I want to bring up this chart. Take a look at this, right? So it's nothing like the 2008 housing market, right? Because we had buyers are better off and lending standards are better, but that doesn't mean their spending habits are better. It could possibly mean people's spending habits are actually worse because they've been getting free money the last 2 years. Look at this. This is the rug pull I'm talking about, okay? This is mortgage payment to income ratio. Essentially, we're way up here now at 31%, which is basically showing that we are as high as far as the mortgage payment to income ratio. We are almost at where we were at during the Great Recession or Great Housing Market Meltdown of 2007 to 2009. So we are already there from an expense or debt to income ratio or housing payment versus income ratio than the last Great Recession. But here's the thing. This is what I'm saying. This data we just reviewed is lagging. It's not taking into account the historical amount of an inflation, and it's not taking into account that as we move on in 2022, things will only get more expensive and things will only get worse from an inflation standpoint. So we're already up there to 2007 and 2008 unaffordability wise, but we're in a much worse situation because we can't go down in interest rates and inflation is even higher. Now I want you guys to take a look at this map that essentially shows us across the nation where the biggest housing market bubbles are at right now. Take a look at this. Okay, guys. So obviously everything in red is overvalued and everything in, I don't know, what is that? Green, brown? That's a weird color, is undervalued. So really the only undervalued places are around here. There's really not a lot. There's actually some places in California still, NorCal or mid-California. But look at this. What I'm really shocked at, look at Florida. You know, Florida wasn't always like this. Florida is absolutely destroyed. And so look at Texas. Texas is in brutal shape, especially Austin. The reason why it's looking like this in Florida now and in Texas is high migration, because people can now work from home. The fact that so many people can work from home now, they're leaving those really, really expensive states like California or New York, Nevada, and they're flooding to Texas and Florida because it's much more affordable to live here, even though our property taxes are higher. I understand our property taxes are higher when compared to California, but we don't have state income tax in Texas. And that, my friends, makes it way more affordable alone to live in Texas. Now I want to end this video with some opinions that I've formulated after reading this. Now, my first opinion is the bubble is here, right? The bubble is here in January and February and a little bit into March of this year only made it worse because we actually had it continued excessive equity growth during January, February, and into March, which further blew up our housing market bubble. And another thing, you guys, is this could actually be much worse than 2008 because of inflation and the increased cost to live our everyday lives. So the possibility that we'll have a even bigger housing market crash is there. I'm not saying we'll have an even bigger financial crisis, right, because of the bad loans of 2008, but strictly from a housing market standpoint, it's possible things go down even more in equity. Again, not not banks going out of business. I'm strictly talking about the housing market. Now, guys, also, if you live in one of those areas in red, you may want to sit out from buying a house right now and let the dust settle. Let all of the countermeasures from the Federal Reserve take place and let this market balance out. And also, guys, if you have the ability to pick wherever you want to live because you can work from home, you may want to pick an area that's not in red, maybe something that's undervalued or that's a little bit balanced, right? So choose carefully where you're living. Don't go where the high migration is necessarily, right? That's going to be more beneficial if you want to invest or you want to do a rental or something along those lines. My last opinion here is, you guys, don't rush buying real estate. Be patient and be calm. Now, if you're like me and you're sitting on the sidelines, the only thing I could tell you is be proud of yourself, pat yourself on the back, continue to increase your credit, continue to stay out of consumer debt, continue to save your money, monitor your budget, cut expenses, and love your family. You guys, that's going to wrap this video up. If you're out there investing in real estate, I wish you luck and I hope you win.